Hello, I'm Mantastic and Fantastic, and today I'm going to be talking about the Sacred Relic rare egg machine that is now live in North America. So this is the second time that this event has come to us, and with it there has been quite a few buffs to a variety of cards, as well as one new monster being added. And what makes this event unique is that every single card can transform, but in addition to that, several of these cards are actually there to help other cards transform by providing numerous effective skill boosts. And this particular combination of awakenings and original active skill is quite valuable because, generally speaking, skill boosts are dead awakenings as soon as you've passed the first floor, essentially, because you basically use them to charge up your skills, use them, and then they have no value for the rest of the dungeon. So if a card brings numerous effective skill boosts and then transforms, when they transform, they take away all those skill boosts, that previous delay or haste, and put something stronger in its place. And that is tremendously valuable. And if you are interested in transforming or bolstering your transforming capabilities, there is value within this machine. Furthermore, within the bottom rarity, 2 out of the 4 cards featured are tremendously powerful and are worth pursuing. So if you have never rolled in this event before, I do encourage you to do so because Paulo and Lamp are tremendously powerful 5-star cards. Sadly, none of the cards featured in this event have weapon assists, which means that the value of a duplicate is drastically diminished because you could have 2 of the same high value card, but it's incredibly unlikely you'll actually run 2 on any given team. So there are 6, 7, and 5-star cards, with 5 stars comprising 55% of the rolling pool with only 4 cards. So 11.25% chance for any 5-star card means it's technically easy to acquire any one of these, but at the same time, you're probably going to get many duplicates. And with that in mind, I would approach this event with a finite number of rolls. You should roll a finite amount and then kind of stop a little earlier, so to speak, once you start picking up too many of the 5 stars because, like I said, duplicates do not have value. And here's just my little quick reference summary to show you what awakenings are available. So, the first card is Gregory, and Gregory is essentially a physical fire Yugi that relies on TPAs. He has the exact same multipliers and basically the same mechanics. He has massive amounts of auto follow-up attack damage as well as immunity to poison, along with 2 times health, 20 times attack, and 2 times recovery with a single leader. Furthermore, he has 7 TPAs, which results in 17 times personal damage, a comically high amount of damage from each of your leaders, and they are basically your primary damage dealer. Furthermore, their active skill once transformed is quite powerful because it's a tri-elemental board changer that overcomes voids. And voids are actually the biggest hurdle for Gregory teams because, generally speaking, your damage dealers have ways to deal with voids, but on Gregory teams, they tend to be your main damage dealers, and they can't actually hurt void spawns due to a lack of a VDP awakening, which means they have to rely on their active skill. And while their active skill is an 8-turn cooldown, it is still a hindrance. Like, if there are multiple repeated void spawns in a row, you're going to have to use this active skill. Of course, if it's something that's a little squishy or softer, you can definitely push through, or if you have 1 or 2 subs that have VDP. But the point of the matter is, voids are still a major hurdle for Gregory teams. And the fact that he wants to use physical types who ideally have TPA to a certain extent does also make for another restrictive subpool, and I honestly feel that several of his cards are quite difficult to replicate successfully. So as mentioned already, he has 7 TPAs, which results in comically high amounts of damage. You can make little combos and deal massive amounts of damage. Of course, combo shields can be a little bit more difficult because if you have to match 4, you might end up losing a combo, but that's just something you're going to have to work with because combo shields are going to be another hurdle. But one thing that I have found difficult, I did roll Gregory in the past, and I don't have a Duval. And Duval I found, or the lack of Duval, has made it difficult to make a truly wonderful team. And that's kind of the case for Gregory, I feel like, or any fire transforming team. Without Duval or Paulo to a certain extent, I feel, you're going to have a tough time transforming, as well as bringing the required amount of utility that you want to have for a given dungeon. So Gregory teams have a bit of that restriction, so to speak. Now, like Yugi, you have these giant multipliers, but the thing is, you only really benefit from the TPA match. You can't layer in rows, you can't really benefit from VDP, so it's just going to be a bit harder to damage these bulkier spawns, so to speak, especially if they have a void, when you need to use this active skill over and over again. So, as a whole, I feel like Gregory looks strong on paper with the multipliers and the mechanics he grants through his leader skill, but he is held back by combo shields, he's held back by voids, and also held back by an incredibly restrictive subpool. So he definitely can clear plenty of content, but I feel like it's just going to take a much more specific or deep monster box to do so. The next card is Dina, and Dina is is the best bunny costume card in Pad, and she also comes with wonderful amounts of personal damage with double 7 combo, double VDP, a devil killer, and an L unlock to unlock the board. Furthermore, her active skill, once transformed, is a 1-turn cooldown that will generate 3 water orbs, lock the whole board, which in turn counters spinners, and then provide a small 1.2 times attack for water cards. So basically she can generate water orbs, counter spinners, and provide an attack debuff, which will overwrite any existing debuff. So she's bringing quite a big package all in one card, and the biggest hurdle is being able to incorporate her onto your team because she needs to transform, and because she transforms, she's going to be taking skill boosts, which means you're going to have to compensate otherwise. So you might think, well, this 1-turn cooldown is going to mean that my Yomi Norza teams are going to be super happy with this, but unfortunately, I don't think Dina is definitely not the best choice, and not even the second best choice for Yomi Norza teams, because Dina has an active skill while it makes water, does not make hearts, and it will also potentially overwrite hearts. And if those heart orbs get overwritten, you can't activate, you can't get your damage reduction, you're probably going to die. So using Dina as a sub is going to be possibly a liability, because it's going to be also difficult to transform, because you have your Norza friend or your Norza leader and Dina transforming. You are also going to have the risk of 50% of the time you don't have heart orbs available because you might overwrite them, and it's just going to be a bit more of a nightmare overall. But on that same breath, if you're playing a different mono water team, Dina is probably going to be one of the better subs for you because of the sheer amount of utility she does offer. So it's kind of like Yomi Norza is the best mono water team. Dina can't quite work well on them, so she's kind of in a bit of that awkward limbo, so to speak. Again, she can still clear plenty of content. She can even be used as a leader in Parafasca to do wonderful things. So if you have a mono water team that's not Yomi Norza, Dina is going to be a powerful sub for you. Next card is Alna, and this girl here is tremendously powerful because her base form provides you with 3 skill boosts and a skill bind resist, which is helpful for resisting skill binds on floor 1, but you have 3 skill boosts towards transforming all your other cards because she only needs 12 in total to transform herself, so making your life easier in those regards. But once she transforms, she has double SBR, which can again help alleviate some team building if you're utilizing cards with no skill bind resist. But she has 2 enhanced heal orbs with a massive recovery stat. She has cloud resist, double 7 combo, and a VDP. So she's bringing a pretty great package overall from Awakening. She's giving you the ability to heal tremendous amounts, deal meaningful amounts of damage with herself, and a cloud resist alongside of that. Furthermore, her active skill is wonderfully powerful as well. It fully removes all bind and awoken binds, and then changes the top row to wood orbs, and then locks all wood orbs. So a soft counter to spinners, a reliable orb generation, and easy way to clear bind and awoken binds. So I think that she's a pretty well designed card in the sense that she kind of offers everything, so to speak. She's giving you a bit of resistance, she's giving you healing, damage, powerful active skill, easy to inherit over top of, and the best part is, even if you don't encounter the bind or awoken bind spawns, you can utilize the orb changer anyways, which is always going to be helpful. So there's no true downside to her active skill. And as a whole, I think she's quite a wonderful card, but the main issue is I feel that she doesn't have a truly great place to be utilized on, mostly because Wood lacks an exceptionally strong leader at this point in time. It's not to say that Wood has no leaders available whatsoever, it's just that there's nothing super top tier that's going to be carrying you to really truly take advantage of her, so to speak. This again can change in the future if we do get certain collabs or events that JP has that we don't, or just brand new cards getting released in the future where she can definitely fit on as a sub because she kind of brings a bit of everything that you want. The next card is Dire, and Dire is a powerful rainbow leader once he transforms because he has the guard break to overcome the high defense low health spawns, 2 team health for added bulk, and tremendous amounts of personal damage. He has a 10 combo and 2 7 combos. That is pretty magical overall because that is 20 times personal damage against any spawn. And they also can take Devil Healer or Machine Killers to further amplify their effectiveness. But at the same time, they probably want to utilize the VDP latent because he has one of the highest amounts of universal personal damage available, and it works on rainbow teams because he's a rainbow leader. So with his active skill, once he transforms, he is able to actually void damage void, which was much more helpful before the VDP latent, but with the VDP latent, his active does decrease a bit in value because if you have the VDP latent, it becomes a little less necessary, but again, it still could be helpful, so that can be possibly a little drawback if you have a more developed box. For his leader skill, he provides you with 2 times health and recovery for god types, 20 times attack when hitting 4 or more colors, as well as 50,000 auto follow attack damage. So you can overcome resolve spawns. His guard break will take care of the latent Tamadras as well as A10 and Altarina 4. He has the big damage output, and he's a solid leader all around. The main drawback with Dire at this point in time is he needs to hit 10 combos to truly shine. If you don't hit the 10 combos, your damage output is quite lackluster. And if you compare him to Alj has a bunch of 7 combos, so much easier to proc reliably. Dire needs to hit that 10 combos to truly deal meaningful damage. And that becomes much harder without 7x6. And I say that because 7x6 is currently punished in Arena 6 and Altarina 4 because of no Hime. It just makes your life much more annoying. It's definitely stallable and doable because if you pair with someone like A10, who gives you the big board and the massive RCV, stalling shouldn't be an issue, but it just takes longer to actually clear the dungeon, which can be possibly a limiting factor. Of course, if you pair someone like Shinji or Valentine's Ideal and giving yourself type restrictions, you have other ways to add combo count through your friend's leader skill while still retaining that 6x5. And of course, the little bit of god type restriction can be problematic because if you pair Valentine's Ideal, Dire gets the full multiplier because Valentine's Ideal likes to have dragon types as well, but your subs are going to be possibly a little bit more restrictive because you have to have much more specific sub pool to get the full benefit from both leaders overall. So as a whole, Dire is a powerful leader, but again, he needs to truly hit that 10 combo to truly be efficient. The next card is Hermes, and Hermes is kind of like Alna in the sense that he does help you transform relatively well because 2 skill boosts, easy 12 turn to transform for himself, as well as once he does transform, he provides a tremendous amount of utility for your mono dark teams. He has 3 VDPs and big attack stats, so he does meaningful amounts of VDP damage, tape resist, L unlock, as well as 2 seconds of orb movement time, and a powerful active skill. His active skill provides you with 3 times recovery and 3 times attack for dark attribute cards for a single turn, as well as locking all dark orbs. And that is quite a powerful combination because a 4-turn cooldown, you can address numerous different problems as well as ensuring you have the burst or the capacity to heal back to full health with relative ease. Furthermore, he does have a strong leader skill, which means with his devil typing can successfully pair with Yugi, who is somewhat the king of mono dark at this point in time. Pairing with Yugi results in a powerful leader skill because you tap into Yugi's benefits, and Hermes also gives you +1 combo when matching light and dark at the same time, which is important because row or blob style teams tend to have issues with combo shields. Now, Hermes can still definitely pair with Yugi and clear plenty of content. It's just that Hermes is reliant on Yugi for success, and if something better comes along that Yugi can pair with, Hermes' value does technically decrease, so to speak. And right now we have V, who is a much stronger pairing for Yugi because V adds better multipliers, he's immune to time debuffs, and adds +2 combos instead of 1 through his leader skill and does not have to rely on matching light as well. So you could definitely just use Hermes as a sub instead and just take advantage of all his utilities. So as a leader, he's still strong, just not the best option available to pair with Yugi. But as a whole, I would be happy to acquire Hermes for my mono dark teams, as well as giving me a chance to play with Yugi on 6x5 with something that is much better compared to whatever else I was using beforehand. Now we come to the 6-star cards, and Toya is the only new card to be added in this event, and perhaps I'm overvaluing them because they have a comically large attack stat and massive amounts of personal damage, but they mix 2 awkward awakenings. Mixing VDP and mixing TPA is awkward because you need 13 orbs to actually tap into both of those, so half the time, or most of the time, you're going to be losing out on basically half of your damage awakenings, which is awkward, but perhaps it's compensated by his comically high attack stat. 5,516 before pluses is outrageously high. Like, no one else really compares to that, so maybe I'm overvaluing it for that regards. But also when they transform, they have an interesting leader skill and active. Their active skill unlocks the whole board and gives you bonus orb movement time, which is cool, and then reduces enemies' defense by 75%. It's an okay active skill in the sense that like it does a bunch of things, but it's not necessarily all the things you want to have. But again, it's a 2-turn cooldown, which makes it easy to inherit over top of. But his leader skill is quite interesting. With dual pairing, you have auto follow attack, you have only 25 or 1/4 of your original health, but 93.75% damage reduction when matching light or dark, as well as 441 times attack when just matching light and dark. So, if you match light and dark, you're going to be unbelievably hard to kill with that comically high amounts of damage reduction, as well as enjoying this massive 441 times multiplier. Of course, at the same time, if you don't have light or dark on the board, you are going to die, and it's going to be kind of sad. But at the same time, you're kind of immune to gravities. You're pretty much immune to like RCV debuff, so to speak, because with such a tiny health pool, you should be able to heal up no problem. You'll have like maybe 10, maybe 15,000 health. You can heal back up, no problem. You also don't care about gravities, because with that amount of damage reduction, gravities, you just shrug off. Even like 200% gravities, not an issue, no big deal, you're gonna be fine. So it's kind of an interesting leader, and of course I didn't actually roll them. Like, it's sometimes hard to evaluate cards when you're never going to acquire them, and you're never going to acquire many other cards alongside of it. So a lot of the stuff I do write about is purely speculation, and that's probably not going to change any time, because rolling is simply hard, and there's just not enough magic stones to go around. But either way, I think it's quite an interesting card, and for those who have managed to roll them, let me know how they are performing at this point in time. Do you find them interesting to play with, or not so great? Regardless of that, let's talk about Elsa. And Elsa is a wonderfully strong card for helping you transform, because she brings 6 effective skill boosts with her 3 turns of haste and 3 original skill boosts. So, 6 effective skill boosts, you transform, and then she becomes a completely different card. The card that she becomes has double 7 combo, L, and 3 team health, as well as a bi-color board of light and water orbs with a bonus amount of orb movement time. So, the main idea for using Elsa is to transform. Your team will transform much more easily with 6 effective skill boosts, but the drawback is she has no skill bind resistant either form, which means you have to compensate or just use no other card that lacks this awakening. You also have no resists either. She's not bringing any resistance to the team. So I kind of feel like she's somewhat of a glorified skill boost stick. It's a lot of skill boosts, but the card that she transforms into afterwards is not as magical as some other things possibly available, especially when I get to Duval, who has the same number of effective skill boosts, but a much better kit overall at the end. So as a whole, Elsa will help you transform, takes away those skill boosts and those haste active skill once you transform, but she's not as amazing afterwards compared to other cards. Next is Rita, and maybe I'm undervaluing Rita. Like, I do use Rita, she is reliable. Perhaps maybe she's a little stronger with her leader skill, but again, could be flip-flopping between the two. I just kind of erred on the side of conservative for her. But Rita, once she transforms after 18 turns minus her 1 skill boost through base awakenings, will have an interesting array of awakenings through her 2 killers, time extends, super jam resist, a single 7 combo, and skill charge. And that skill charge is important because her active skill has a 6-turn cooldown, which means it can be 3 turns with skill charge. And for 3 turns, it provides you with 35% damage reduction and 1.5 times attack for god and balance types. So that's actually quite a powerful active skill, considering you can have it looped and have continuous uptime. You override attack debuffs, you get a bit more bulk, and you can have it up all the time. So your multipliers will technically be higher, which is nice. And her leader skill gives you no skyfalls and a large attack multiplier and 50% damage reduction along with auto follow-up attack when you hit any 4 colors. So you've got quite a powerful rainbow leader, but you have a little bit of an extra restriction. You have to leave 6 or fewer orbs remaining on the board, which is definitely quite doable and forgiving. If you have 8 combos to start, no problem, just match them normally. If you have 7 combos, you must blob at least 3 orbs worth of them to existing combos to activate your full leader skill. But at the same time, this should definitely be doable. Like, I don't feel like it's the largest hurdle to overcome unless you have lots of bombs, poisons, well, jammers, like a lot of awkward dead orbs, so to speak, that will prevent you from happening. But even then, you should be able to manage. Unfortunately, she is lacking in a couple of ways. She does not have skill bind resist in either form, so utilizing A10 as a sub, which is pretty common, will mean you have to use skill bind resist somehow. Her 2 killers are kind of niche. I don't feel like they really come into play that often, which in turn makes it so she has kind of 2 lackluster awakenings. If there were 7 combos, she'd have 7 combo, much more universal offensive capabilities. And you need to have 4 colors. 4 colors should definitely be available all the time, but again, it is possible you don't have them, and therefore you don't get the damage reduction. And she does have kind of a long transformation requirement, I feel like. I feel like she does require... Her transforming should be a little lower in my head, but maybe that's just me. But let's go back to the benefits of her. So as a leader, she can pair beautifully well with Valentine's Ideal because Valentine's Ideal is one of the best leaders in the game, but Valentine's Ideal gives you massive amounts of bulk. You'll have huge amounts of damage reduction and extra health. You will also enjoy no Skyfalls with her, which doesn't equal positive. 2 no Skyfalls doesn't equal Skyfalls, but because of no Skyfalls with Valentine's Ideal, her leader skill is a little stronger, which is great because Rita had no Skyfall anyway, so you're just taking advantage of the perks of Valentine's Ideal without the drawbacks. And Valentine's perk is +2 combo count, so if you have that 8 combo board, which should be happen reasonably often, you will hit the 8 combos and then go up to 10, which means A10 is going to be going, haha, I hit a 10 combo, I deal massive amounts of damage. It's a great pairing overall, and that's what I actually utilize when I stream and play 3-player Arena 6. It's fun, it's reasonably reliable, there's a bit of risk involved, but I think it's still a powerful leader overall. And remember, if you do proc your skill charge, you have this active skill you can loop to relatively successful. Now we come to Duval, and Duval I've alluded to beforehand as being powerful, and it's because he provides 6 effective skill boosts, so you can transform quite easily, and then once he transforms, he gets the skill bind resist, better than Elsa, he gets super blind, better than Elsa, and an active skill that is actually much more impactful. He basically kind of eclipsed Elsa in terms of the same effective skill boost, but he has a much stronger form afterwards. His active skill afterwards gives you a column of fire orbs, so potentially 5 fire orbs generated, and 2 times attack for physical and dragon types on a 4-turn cooldown. So you can inherit something over top of him that's higher impact, more meaningful, or you can just kind of ride his 4-turn cooldown and just constantly have a stream of fire orbs. There's no true downside to him from this active skill point of view. Now, for the Awakenings, he does mix TPA and VDP, which I've said before is not the best, but if utilizing him on something like Gregory, you do have a possible solution for dealing with void spawns. It can be meaningful. Furthermore, Duval I feel is kind of mandatory to have for any fire transforming leader because no one comes close to providing the same amount of value he does. No one else can have 6 effective skill boosts with a super blind afterwards and a meaningful active skill. It just doesn't happen. And without Duval, you are going to struggle because that's a pretty big hole to fill. There's a lot of things he brings that it can be difficult to mimic and duplicate. And if you are serious about playing fire transforming cards, especially in the future of REM and Dante, which should be coming soon, he's kind of a staple mandatory sub overall. Unfortunately, Duval does not come from the monster exchange system. You actually have to roll him, which is kind of awkward because you want to roll in this event, but you don't want to roll too many times because duplicates are not desirable. But either way, if you do acquire Duval, your fire transforming capabilities shoot up dramatically. Next is Shivnia. And Shivnia is one of the best farming leaders in the game because she has tremendous amounts of personal damage once she transforms. She has 3 attack well below 50%. She has a dragon killer. She has a god killer. She has a VDP. She's basically all offensive awakenings as well as killers that are relevant to many spawns. So that is pretty tremendous overall. And the beauty of teams that rely on attack well below 50% awakenings is that they can layer in rows, which further bolsters their damage. And that's exactly what Shivnia wants to do because Shivnia needs to match 6 or more connected dark orbs for her full multiplier and the 1 point of auto follow attack damage, which is meaningful if you're facing resolved spawns. So she has massive amounts of personal damage, can layer in rows, and once she does transform, she does have a beautiful active skill that creates 2 rows of dark. And for those 2 rows, I often just leave the top, let it match, and then break up the bottom. I can then solve 2 floors with 1 active skill, and with both your Shivnias, you can solve 4 floors with their active skill. Furthermore, if you utilize something like Fortress Dragon, who transforms into Dark Magician Girl, you get those 3 haste. So you transform Dark Magician Girl or Fortress Dragon to haste, and your Shivnias come up much quicker. You can do lots of cool and creative things with them. So as a whole, they are a powerful farming leader, and you also can access many farmable cards because Satan is farmable and Chuan is farmable in the sense that she is given out for free or as a reward periodically throughout the year, so to speak. And with all of those kind of thrown together, you have a much easier time team building. You have ways to manage your health so you stay below 50%. And I feel like, just generally speaking, dark is just a more accessible color for farming, at least at this point in time, because Zeus Dioses have kind of fallen out of favor, so to speak. So you have farmable cards available, you have big damage output, and she is actually my favorite leader for farming Training Arena 2. I can bring a leveling card, and I can do it within like 2.5 minutes with basically little thinking possible. Perhaps the only drawback for her is that she's a little slower compared to other farming cards, potentially, because she has to transform, which in turn takes a bit more time. To me, that's not a big deal, but it can make or break some people's approach. Now we come to the 5-star cards. And the 5-star cards have lower weighted stats as a whole, which is a bit of a drawback, but for 2 out of the 4 of them, they are tremendously powerful. Now, Lamp is one of those 2 cards, because Lamp in their base form provides 4 effective skill boosts. They have 2 skill boosts and 2 turn delay, so that's quite helpful. And once they transform, they have a super poison resist, many water roasts, so your mono water teams deal big damage, and an active skill that provides a 3 times attack burst, and removing all bind and awoken binds. That's quite a bit of value within an active skill, and at least one of those aspects is going to be valuable. Sometimes both of those aspects are going to be valuable. So the point is, like, you have a sub who helps you transform, who also has a useful active skill and super poison resist after. But the fun doesn't stop there, because their leader skill is actually reasonably powerful. It's by no means the best out there in the game, but you can pair with Fasca and lead row water team on 7x6. Kind of cool, kind of interesting. I've played through Arena 3 of them many times when this first came around, and it's quite successful overall. And again, like, Lamp is quite well rounded. You can utilize him as a leader for a large majority of the game, and then transition him into a sub later on once you acquire better leaders or you're pushing into the harder content. Just great value overall, but you still need to be aware of his shortcomings. He does have low weighted stats, especially health and recovery, which are probably the most important, because his personal damage doesn't matter, because those are team damage awakening. So his higher attack stat is kind of wasted. If those attack stat was shifted into health, he'd be a much better card overall, but that's sadly not the case. And he also lacks a skill bind resist in either form, so you just need to, again, be aware of that when playing through content if you do sprinkle in cards like, say, Blue Odin as another complementing sub. Next is Peen Numis, and maybe I've got the whole wrong idea about them, how they function and work, but I don't find them that appealing overall, but maybe for like 5-star challenges that might come back, they might have value, because as a 5-star card, it could be hard to get skill bind resist. They do have actually a reasonable leader skill as well, but I feel like it still has some shortcomings, because you do have to rely on TARDIS perhaps for the active skill every turn, and the multipliers are all right, but I feel like it's more so he would pair with someone else that's better, and like, say, Fasca, for instance. And is that really an accurate representation of how good a card is as a leader? Most things can pair with Fasca and do very well. So maybe, again, I'm kind of missing the mark on this card, but I think they have an interesting mechanic, so to speak. They basically have 2 transforming forms that they flip-flop between the 2 on a 2-turn cooldown. So you can do some interesting stuff, maybe. Like, you do have larger amounts of personal damage when he's in the attack while below 50% form, but much less personal damage when he's attack while above 80%. So I feel like it's just kind of a cool idea, but I feel like it's just difficult to work around. He won't be utilized on farming teams, because even though he has attack while below 50%, you have to transform him once, and when you transformed him, he didn't generate orbs. You're probably not going to be able to use his active skill much more afterwards anyways. It's just not going to be efficient in those regards. So again, maybe as a leader, and maybe for like weird niche challenges, it might be useful, but I feel like I would not get much value out of it. I own one and have never looked or touched it at this point in time. But again, if you utilize him and find a use or value for them, let me know what that is. Next is Lishiel. And this card here has a strong active skill once they transform. Like, once they transform, they remove 5 turns of Awoken Binds, and then a tri-elemental board of wood, light, and heart orbs. So I love orb changes with bind clearing solutions, because one component is always going to be used. But the problem is the body that this active skill comes with is not that great. She has super jam resist, which is okay. The super blind or super poison tend to be better. And she has a bunch of team RCV, but kind of what I talked about, I'm not sure if I said about Elsa, but with team RCV, the problem is the whole team has to have good RCV for this awakening to work. If every other card had terrible RCV, you're not really improving that much. You improve the RCV of a terrible card, so to speak. It's not that great. Whereas enhanced heal orbs are a much stronger healing solution because they only care about the owning cards' recovery value. So everyone else can be terrible, but the healing solution card with the enhanced heart orbs can do all the heavy lifting. A great example is Amaterasu. Amaterasu has comically high amounts of RCV, large amounts of enhanced heal orb awakenings, can solve all your healing problems even on like Gregory teams where basically every card has almost a 0 RCV. Whereas Team RCV wouldn't solve the problem. So Lachelle in that regards is a little lackluster. Her active is great, but the body that comes with it is not so wonderful. So I feel like she'd be mostly just like a transitional card. You'd utilize her if you have a more shallow monster box, but you would drop her as soon as stronger things become available because she's not fulfilling that many things overall. And now lastly we come to Paulo, who is one of the stars of this event, because in her base form she gives you 4 effective skill boosts with 2 skill boosts and 2 haste. So transforming, very happy. And then once she transforms, she gives you 3 team health, so that's a large amount of added bulk. But it's her active skill that is truly magical, along with, I guess, the L Awakening, because it's always useful to have. But her active skill gives you 1 turn of damage absorb counter and color absorb counter on an 8-turn cooldown. She does both. And this active skill has become mandatory to have in basically any dungeon at this point in time. You will not be able to complete a dungeon without a damage absorb void. Basically, almost any dungeon nowadays, you need to have this active skill. It's a stupid concept. I'm strongly against that idea that you must have a certain active skill to counter and overcome and actually clear a dungeon, but that is sadly the pad life we live in, and Paulo is just one of the best solutions for that because it's a short 8-turn cooldown, which means it will charge up more readily, and the team health does give you quite a bit of added bulk. The L Awakening does provide extra utility, and even if my team cannot utilize her due to the wrong typing or color, I sometimes still throw her on my team because that team health will basically compensate for her lower weighted stats. She already had bad weighted stats anyways. She's not really missing out on anything. She wasn't dealing damage. Her stats weren't that impressive. So she doesn't have to get the leader skills multipliers. And those 3 team healths, they might just compensate for it anyways. So you're not necessarily losing out. And then you gain access to 4 skill boosts and that powerful active skill. So again, the only real drawbacks of Paulo is lower weighted stats, which are probably negated anyways, because it doesn't really matter. And I guess no skill bind resist in the base form, but at least she gets a skill bind resist afterwards. But the point of the matter is, if you've never got Paulo before, she's going to be one of the best solutions for your damage absorb and color absorb needs. Like, she just all in one package. And the best part is she's a bottom rarity card. So what, 11.25% chance to acquire should be reasonably doable. Again, it's still worth rolling because you might pick up other useful cards along the way. So with that in mind, do I plan to roll in my dream rolls? So the answer is I do not plan to roll in Sacred Relic, not because it's a bad event, but because I've rolled quite a bit in the past. I've picked up all the 5-star cards. There is no value in me acquiring any more of them. I've already possibly got 1 or 2 of each one, so there's no need. So over half of my rolls are going to be duds. And even though I'd love to get like some of the diamond cards, it's just not worth me spending stones in that regards, because while it will help me, is it necessarily going to change my life? Probably not. But either way, let's dream about what I could roll, which I sadly didn't on my free roll. I got like lamp number 3. I could light up a room, but that's all I can do. Either way, first dream card is 7-star, and Alna is the one I would like the most. And the reason being for that is I've technically rolled Gregory and Dina before, so they're kind of not counted, but it's because mono wood is kind of like a weak color for me at this point in time, and acquiring her would give me a much stronger box for wood teams if we ever get a strong wood leader. And she would replace my Orihime because she has infinitely better weighted stats. She has a much stronger active skill with the same cooldown. She's just missing super poison resist, but she brings much more to the table by comparison, so I would definitely want to utilize her over Orihime if that was available. And again, things might change. We might get a super strong wood leader in the future, and I'll have something for it right away. For 6 stars, I would love to get Duval. Duval would just transform my box, so to speak, for how well I can build mono fire teams, because he's kind of like the all-in-one complete package as a sub. It's hard to replicate him. He provides so much value, and I don't have him, and it just makes me sad, but it's just a way of life. And then for 5 stars, it's just a default winner of Paulo because, well, she's the best of the bunch, and I don't have any use for them anyways because I already have all the 5 stars, but I might as well show you what the best card is what should be possibly your dream 5-star card. So, in conclusion, the Sacred Relic event is a good event to roll in, but it's a good event to roll in only a sparing amount. You should roll to try and get Paulo, to try and get Lamp, because they're bottom rarity cards that are more doable, but once you start picking up quite a few of the cards and duplicates start becoming more and more common, it's probably time to stop because duplicates don't have much value at all because it's incredibly difficult to run 2 of a single card on a given team, as well as the fact that there are no weapon assists. So maybe that will change in the future, which will give much more value to acquire duplicates, but at this point in time, I feel that several rolls to try and snipe the bottom rarity cards and pick up whatever along the way is the best approach. With that being said, let me know what you think about this event in the comments below. Do you think this is an event worth rolling in? And if you did roll in it, who did you acquire and who were you chasing as well? Either way, hopefully all the Mantastic day. I wish you all the best luck in your own pad adventures and happy puzzling.